Welcome to Spiritual Journey. I'm Reverend Nancy Dibelius. Today we are going to explore the spiritual practice of discernment. There are a variety of individual practices that are designed to help us acquire the skills of discernment. The word discernment comes from the Latin discerno, meaning to separate, mark off, divide, to keep apart, to distinguish between. The word has to do with separating and sorting. Spiritual discernment focuses on separating ourselves from the world so that we can more effectively sort through the many things that may be calling to us, to distinguish that which is foremost, that which God is inviting us into. Discernment is one of the spiritual gifts that Paul articulates in his letter to the church in Corinth. Although we may not all share in the gift of discernment, there are practices that can help us develop skills that enhance our ability to discern a particular decision or choice in our lives. When confronted with a decision, how do we listen for God in the midst of it? This is not intended to be the only way to practice discernment, but to help you begin to explore the practice. This particular exercise involves visualization, seeing the decision in the presence of God. We will come back to this topic in future weeks, offering other ways to practice discernment. This particular exercise invites you to lift your choices up to God so that you might gain a better understanding of God's desire for you. First, consider a decision that you may need to make. Then find an image that would represent God's love for you. For example, you might picture God's love as a bright light, an open hand, something in nature, something that will be authentic for you and your relationship with God. Then be clear about the decision you are trying to make and the choices that are before you. Then, using the image you have chosen, imagine the decision that needs to be made being held in God's loving presence. Lift the decision up to the image you have chosen. Hold that image for several minutes. Then imagine each of the possible choices being held in God's love. Place them in God's presence. See them. Spend several minutes with each choice. When you have lifted up each of the choices into God's presence, express your gratitude to God. Then take some time to reflect on what you saw. As you reflect on what you saw, do you have a sense of God's response to each of the choices? Do you have greater clarity with regard to God's deep desire for you? Take time to journal about this experience.